Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, comrades and friends, my name is Dr. Ian Phillips, and there are moments in politics when the lie is not even sophisticated, right? It does not arrive dressed in nuance. It does not tiptoe in the room wearing a diplomatic badge and carrying a folder labeled classified and X. No, it kicks the door open, it spills the coffee on the rug, and it says, don't worry, nobody is going to notice. So here's the story. The Iranian media is now claiming that, as part of the United States-Iran framework deal, the United States and its allies may be involved in reconstruction plans for Iran worth at least $300 billion. $300 billion. And according to the same reported draft, Iran would also get access to $24 billion in frozen assets, and half of that allegedly available before serious negotiations even begin. And at the same time, Vice President J.D. Vance is out here saying essentially no, money is being transferred to Iran for signing the deal. No money is being transferred to Iran for signing the deal. So now we have two completely different universes. In one universe, the Trump administration has struck a tough performance-based agreement where Iran gets nothing until it gives up something real. Nuclear material, verification, inspections, compliance, everything that we already had, which was under full IAEA supervision. Full compliance, and every single national intelligence agency said that they were abiding by the deal in the first place. And in the other universe, Iran is saying, actually, we get billions unlocked, sanctions reliefs begin, blockade was lifted, and someone starts drawing up a $300 billion reconstruction plan. And the American people are supposed to just sit there, look at both versions, and say, you know what? That's totally normal. Nothing contradictory here. Just diplomacy, doing diplomacy things. I say absolutely not, because this is not just some minor disagreement over the font size in the memorandum, right? This is not one side saying the meeting starts at 9, the other side saying it starts at 9:30, right? This is difference between Iran gets no money and Iran gets the GDP of a medium-sized country in reconstruction commitments. That is not a detail, that is the deal. And this is where the entire story becomes politically radioactive. If the Iranian version is false, then what we have is Tehran performing propaganda theater. They're telling their own people in the region that they have forced the Americans to blink. They're saying, look, we survived the war, the Americans are leaving, the Strait of Hormuz reopens under favorable terms, and now the West is going to help rebuild. That would be a face-saving narrative. A victory lap, a way for the regime to say, we did not capitulate, we extracted concessions, right? But if the Iranian version is true, or even partially true, then the Trump administration has an enormous problem, because you cannot go on television and say no funds will be transferred while the actual framework contains frozen asset releases, sanction relief, and a reconstruction package that can reach hundreds of billions of dollars. Right? That is not tough diplomacy. That is a public relations and with a hostage note attached to it. And the most absurd part is the binary trap that this creates. If Trump denies the Iranian version, then the question becomes, did the deal even exist in the form that Pakistan announced? Was this a real agreement or just a diplomatic mirage produced by mediators, headlines, and everyone desperately wanting the Strait of Hormuz reopened before oil markets had a stroke? But if Trump confirms the Iranian version, then the question becomes even worse. Why did the administration tell the public that there would be no money? You cannot have it both ways. You cannot say that there is no money and then quietly allow the other side to announce numbers that sound like the annual budget of a major department of government or a small or medium-sized country. And now this is why the phrase framework deal is often where accountability goes to die. A framework is wonderful because that can mean everything and nothing. If the deal, it is a deal if markets need calming. It is not a deal if Congress starts asking questions. It is binding if it makes you look like a peacemaker. And it is preliminary if somebody notices the fine print. Right? It is the diplomatic equivalent of saying that we are just talking and after being caught holding hands in public. Right? Now, let's be honest. The American people have seen this move before. All right? You think back to every single conflict we've practically been involved with here for the last, 70 years. Every administration, Republican or Democrat, eventually discovers the magic of linguistic laundering. Right? It is not a payment. It is sanctions relief. It is not a concession. It is confidence-building measure. It is not a ransom. It is the release of frozen assets. It is not aid. It is reconstruction planning. It is not weakness. It is strategic de-escalation. Now, at some point, the average person is allowed to say, stop insulting me. Because whether you support the deal or oppose the deal, the public deserves to know what is actually inside of it. What is actually in it? And if the United States is not paying Iran, say that clearly. And if the frozen funds are being released, say that clearly. And if sanctions relief is conditional, explain the conditions. And if a $300 billion construction plan is being considered, then do not hide behind the fog machine of diplomacy and pretend this is just a misunderstanding from a foreign press agency. And by the way, this is exactly why people distrust government. Right? Not because every deal is automatically bad. Right? It's because, not because diplomacy is inherently some evil force, but because the political class treats the public like children who cannot handle a complete sentence. Right? They're going to give you slogans. They're going to give you fragments. Right? They're going to give us the triumphant headline first, and then 6 weeks later, we discover the asterisk. Well, historic peace deal. I mean, pending, technical talks here, right? Disputed terms, right? Asterisks, sanctions relief unclear, right? Yeah, this is not transparency, right? This is a magic trick, and in this case, the stakes are enormous. We are talking about Iran, nuclear material, regional militias, the Strait of Hormuz, oil prices, Israel, Lebanon, Qatar, Pakistan, billions of dollars, possibly hundreds of billions of dollars. This is not a zoning board dispute in suburban Ohio, where I'm from. This is one of the most geopolitically sensitive agreements on earth. So yes, the administration needs to answer the question directly. Is there a $300 billion reconstruction plan for Iran or not? Now, of course, right now they're going to deny that. They're going to say no, of course not, right? But I think I'd like some more transparency on this matter, right? Are $24 billion frozen assets being released or not? Right? Is any money being made available for negotiations to begin or not? And if the answer is no, then say Iran's report is false. And not misleading, not incomplete, not taken out of context, false. And if the answer is yes, then spare us the victory speech. Because if Iran walks away from this with frozen assets, sanctions relief, a lifted blockade and reconstruction plan, while America gets a promise of future talks, then it is not maximum pressure. That is maximum coping. And look, maybe there is a defensible argument for the deal. Maybe the administration believes opening Hormuz, ending the war, stabilizing oil, and preventing nuclear escalation is worth the painful compromise. Fine, make that argument like adults. And you know what? As adults, we should recognize that maybe we shouldn't start wars like this in the first place, so that way we don't actually have to lose in the end. Even more, it's a double whammy, right? But do not settle as some, triumph, right? While hiding the concessions under a Persian rug, right? Do not, tell the country that there's no money while the other side is bragging about money, right? Because one of two things is true. Either Iran is lying to make the deal look better for itself, or the Trump administration is hiding the real price of the deal from the American public. Right now, neither possibility is reassuring, right? And that right there, is the story. Not whether the $300 billion is real. The story is that nobody trusts the description of the deal because the descriptions are mutually incompatible. One side says no money, the other says billions in reconstruction, and the public is left watching this diplomatic hostage video, wondering whether the deal is historic, imaginary, humiliating, brilliant, fake, or all of the above. Now, my position is simple. Release the text. Release the terms. No more slogans. Show us your communications. No more great deal, nonsense. No more pretending that a framework is finished product when convenient and a vague aspiration when questioned. Show us the documents. I want to see everything, right? I feel that, there's certain times when information should be classified, and there's certain times when it should not be classified. And in this case, especially with one of probably the most unpopular war of the 21st century, I think you have the right to probably release some documents here. I think so. Call me crazy, but I think so. Now, the deal is so good, the public should be allowed to read it. And if the public is not allowed to read it, then maybe the deal is not quite as good as we were being told. And they always like to keep you in the dark. And they always like to distract you as well. Right? Think back to the Epstein files. But if you say that, then all of a sudden you're in the wrong. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you guys enjoyed my little speech here today. Some food for thought. Not looking good. But with that said, my name is Dr. Ian Phillips. Please be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. And we'll talk to you later. Peace.